This tall cabinet, purchased by the guest's great-great-grandparents in 1828 in Lancaster, has been in the family for generations and now resides in the guest's living room. Standing at 9 feet tall, it barely fits in the guest's room with only about an inch to spare to the ceiling.
I think there's like an inch to spare. It's a little tricky getting it into the house.
Originally, the cabinet had a pediment on top, which has been lost over the years, likely due to its size and...
The great thing about this, and maybe the thing that limits it somewhat, is the fact that it is so tall.
Yeah.
But the fact that it is so tall gives it a lot of presence.
The cabinet features impressive architectural details, such as an arched top, keystone automation, and intricate moldings, all contributing to its visual appeal. Made of curly maple, also known as tiger maple, the cabinet has undergone some refinishing or rubbing down over the years, which has affected its original finish and varnish, giving it a slightly different appearance than when it was first made. The cabinet incorporates yellow pine secondary wood, a common feature in furniture from the 1830s to 1840s. Despite some alterations and wear over time, the cabinet is estimated at a retail or insurance value of...
I would put $9,500 on this.
Okay.
You can live with that?
I can.
This artwork, gifted to the guest by the artist Forrest Bess in 1962, is a rare and fascinating piece with a rich history. Forrest Bess was born in 1911 in Bay City, Texas, and was a self-taught modernist artist known for painting his dreams. He was discovered by gallery owner Betty Parsons in the late 1940s, who...
She represented Jackson Pollock and Mark Rothko.
Bess lived an unconventional life, working for the Corps of Engineers during World War II and
then after the war, he was called back to be in charge of his family's bait company in the late 40s, probably.
He built his home and studio out of driftwood found along the beach, and the frame of this artwork is also made from driftwood. Bess painted his dreams, often taking naps during the day and translating his dreams onto canvas. This particular artwork, labeled as Number 30 by Betty Parsons, was likely titled by her and exhibited in her gallery with the price of $150. Modernist works like these are highly sought after, and if sold in a specialized gallery, this piece could fetch a price in the range of
$75,000.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not kidding.
The guest brought in a fascinating heirloom clock, a wedding gift thought to be for their great-great-great-grandfather. The clock is a product of C&N Jerome, brothers who were renowned clockmakers during the early 19th century. This item is dated to 1835, and its design is representative of the popular Greek Revival style of the period. You can also see the original reverse painting adorning the lower part of the clock, emphasizing the importance of preserving such original features. While the clock's condition showed some wear, the estimated replacement value is...
Would bring about $3,500, something in that range.
The guest brought in a fascinating collection of Edward Gorey memorabilia, demonstrating the artist's penchant for the macabre and his darkly humorous wit. Particularly enticing are these two dolls, Fig Bash, a handcrafted Gorey doll, and Bah Humbug, which came with a signed and numbered book. Gorey dolls had become increasingly scarce and valuable since the artist's passing, making them prized possessions for collectors. Another intriguing item is the deck of tarot cards featuring Gorey's signature artwork. The guest revealed that they had purchased it for $50 when it was first issued, highlighting the potential for investment appreciation in Gorey's work. The collection wasn't limited to dolls and tarot cards. It also encompassed books, posters, and a pop-up book, all signed by Gorey himself or one of his numerous aliases like Ogdred Wary and Dozier Wired. The Green Beads is one of Gorey's earliest books, and the Headless Bust with the Bah Humbug doll as notable pieces within the collection. The guests disclosed that they had acquired most of the items at their original retail price when they were first released. This fact underscored the shrewdness of their collecting strategy, estimated to have a retail value of...
For your entire collection would be $5,000 plus.
Oh my gosh.
The guest brought in a collection of vases decorated by her grandmother, who worked for the Sunday Evening Girls, SEG, at the Paul Revere Pottery. The SEG was a unique workplace that provided education, cultural enrichment, and better working conditions for young immigrant women. SEG initially focused on educational and social activities for immigrant women, but later became known for its pottery. While the guest's grandmother primarily worked as a bookkeeper for the SEG, there was a possibility that she had decorated some of the vases. The collection included 2 vases. The vase with a black glaze, estimated to be from 1925 to 1930, had the SEG markings and were typical of Paul Revere's pottery style. It is valued each at,
estimate this piece for between $5,000 and $7,000.
The second vase has a green and black glaze and depicted a scene more akin to European styles. It is believed that this vase is a pre-existing piece not made by SEG, but possibly decorated by them later. It was hand-thrown and has a unique iridescent finish, making it even more valuable. The vase showcased the SEG's adaptation to changing market trends, and even though known for their landscape designs, incorporated European styles to stay relevant. The estimated value at auction is,
I would have to say the same, $5,000 to $7,000.
Wow,
It's not what people
that's
look
surprising.
for.
the guest inherited a valuable Civil War-era cornet, passed down from his great-great-great-grandfather, George Warren, who led the band in the 15th Regiment of Indiana. The cornet was identified as an 1861 E.G. Wright rotary valve cornet made of the rare pure silver and considered to be in exceptional condition. There are various unique features about this cornet. It has large bore, which meant that the cornet had a fatter body than usual cornets of the time. The string rotary valves were actuated by levers and were a distinctive design feature. The engraving displayed the maker's name, E.G. Wright, and added to the overall value of the instrument. It also came with its original mouthpiece, carved wood case, felt lining, and even the price list from E.G. Wright. The cornet is considered to be a presentation-grade item due to the use of pure silver and its exceptional quality. Furthermore, the maker, E.G. Wright, is the foremost brass wind instrument maker in the United States during that period. The estimated retail value of this piece is
at about $35,000.
Yeah, that would surprise me.
The guest brought in a fascinating photo album compiled by her father during his service with the British Army in China between 1907 and 1909. The item is identified as an album itself that is Japanese-made. The album offered a unique glimpse into a period in Chinese history, marked by the reign of the Qingzhou Emperor under the manipulation of the Dowager Empress Cixi, and the Boxer Rebellion, an uprising against Western influence. The album contained a captivating collection of photographs, including a portrait of the guest's father. It also contains a photo of the Dowager Empress Cixi, images of various troops stationed in China, including the Cameron Highlanders, the guest's father's regiment, and a candid shot of the funeral procession of the Qingzhou Emperor. The significance of the candid photographs captured by the guest's father, as they provided a first-hand perspective on historical events, is unimaginable. The album's value is further enhanced by its comprehensive scope, personal connection to the guest's family, and the inclusion of rare photographs. The guest initially estimated the album's value to be around $5,000. However, the appraised value at auction is,
I would say more likely $10,000 to $15,000 would be an auction estimate.
That's
for this.
Good. Yeah.
The guest inherited a vest that had been cherished in their family for generations. The guest recounted the fascinating historical tale behind the creation of the beautiful piece. Although the story couldn't be verified, it added depth to the vest's legacy. Upon examination, the appraiser noted influences of chinoiserie in its design. It was a trend in Europe during the 17th and 18th century where people imitated and interpreted Chinese and other Asian art. They enjoyed decorating their furniture, textiles, and various items with Asian-inspired designs. Despite some discoloration and mildew spots, the vest remained in remarkable condition. Recognizing its significance, the appraiser conservatively suggested its value to be,
I'd have to say that conservatively $3,000 to $5,000 in the auction market.
The guest brought in a clock that had been in her husband's family for decades. It was originally given to her mother-in-law by a neighbor in the 1930s and passed down to her husband about 15 years ago. The key to wind the mechanism wore out, and it had since become a decorative piece. The clock was a rare beehive clock with a mahogany veneer case, representing a significant transition in clockmaking technology. It featured one of the first commercially produced coil springs in America, made by E.C. Brewster in Bristol, Connecticut, around 1834 to 1838. This clock was one of fewer than 50 known examples and was in outstanding condition, making it highly valuable. This extraordinary timepiece, with its rich history and pioneering spirit, was appraised at
This clock, in an auction setting, would easily sell in the $3,000 to $3,500 price category.
Very nice.
This Grenfell missionary rug, cherished in the family for about 70 years, has a rich history rooted in the missionary work of Dr. Wilfred Grenfell in Newfoundland. Dr. Grenfell introduced the idea of weaving these finely crafted rugs to help the impoverished locals generate income.
But he came up with the idea to use designs like that depicted what was going on in their villages.
Their life.
This particular rug features intricate designs including ships, a compass, a house, and
got a couple of native figures, and as they went along progressing with the production of these,
the rugs were made using kits provided to villagers, and the white fabric in this rug is believed to have been made from donated stockings, as fabric scraps were scarce. These rugs were sold for about $4 to $8 in the 1930s, and this pattern is considered desirable due to its detailed design. Comparable rugs have been sold at auction for as much as,
and there have been others that have sold at auction for as much as $4,000, so that kind of gives you a range.
Okay, wow.
This Wooton desk, dating back to the late 1880s, is a prized family heirloom with a rich history. Manufactured in Indianapolis and patented by William Wooton, this desk gained fame at the 1876 Centennial Exhibition, often owned by titans of industry. This particular desk, known as the ordinary version, is actually quite rare due to its diminutive size.
And what makes this special is its diminutive size. This measures 36 inches wide, and it was referred to as a lady's.
Despite its simpler design compared to other versions, its rarity adds to its value. The desk features a patented mark by Wooton, indicating its authenticity, and boasts innovative design features like numerous compartments for organizing paperwork.
Tidy for everybody, and this was the way that Wooton designed this, and that's what gained him fame.
A notable feature is its secret compartment, adding a touch of mystery and intrigue to the piece. Made primarily of walnut with a burl walnut panel, at auction, this desk is estimated to be worth.
Try to generate interest with a $4,000 to $6,000 estimate, but really it'd be the market that would tell us what it's ultimately worth, because one hasn't sold in a long time.
This impressive collection of New York Mets memorabilia dates back to the 1960s, the very birth of the team. Acquired from a yard sale, the collection includes items obtained from the seller's aunt, who worked for the Mets. Among the treasures is a rare Lady Met bobblehead, a souvenir from the 1960s known for its scarcity. Also included is an early Mr. Met bobblehead, predating many others, along with a 1964 Shea Stadium dedication ashtray, highlighting a pivotal moment in Mets history. A signed baseball from the era, likely from 1963 or 1964, adds to the value and authenticity of the collection. Additionally, a pin from a hot dog vendor provides a unique glimpse into the fan experience at the time. The entire collection is estimated to be worth
just what's on the table here. I'd insure it for $2,500.
Wow. Great.
The guest brought a family heirloom clock he inherited from his mother. The clock was identified as a high-quality key-wind watch made by Swiss maker Beauvais in the early 1800s. The clock featured gold, enamel, and pearls with a superior quality mechanism and a duplex escapement. The polished steel mechanism had bluing on the interior steel parts. The clock was made for the sophisticated Chinese market and features fine enamel work with floral scenes. Beauvais hired the world's best enamelists to create these pieces, which are now highly sought after. This deeply impressive and rare timepiece was valued at
auction, I would conservatively estimate the watch at $20,000 to $30,000, and I would fully expect it to bring the higher amount.
That's amazing.
There's always so much to say about furniture, and the same can be said about this table inherited by our guest and presented before us today on the show. This piece is a games table popular in the 18th century. With features typical of game tables, this piece was made with mahogany as the primary wood and other quality woods used as a secondary wood.
And this is where it gets sort of fun. You see these back rails?
Yes.
Those are made of American oak.
Also etched on this table is a number that indicates it was originally a pair. A table like this, in absolutely good condition and still with its original finish, would be auctioned at,
I would say at auction, this would be in the range of $6,000 to about $9,000.
Oh, very good.
Humans are always in awe when they see a thing of beauty, and that's exactly the case with today's piece. Acquired by our guest, this piece is a sculpture of the Piazza del Duomo. The Piazza del Duomo, or Cathedral Square, is a famous landmark in Florence, Italy.
This Piazza del Duomo is actually a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
Quite unique about this piece is that it's made of two different materials. The bottom of the sculpture is made of marble, while the top is made of alabaster.
Making all kinds of sculptures out of alabaster. It's a relatively soft stone and easy to carve. You could also get an amazing, amazing detail.
Although the piece isn't credited, it was probably made circa 1890 and is a very rare, accurate depiction of the Piazza del Duomo. A piece of this size, still in good condition, that accurately depicts a UNESCO World Heritage Site would be auctioned at
A retail price would probably be in the $5,000 range. So I think you got a pretty good buy on it.
Well, thank you.
The tartan that went to the moon refers to a unique piece of Scottish heritage linked to the Apollo 11 mission in 1969. This special tartan was carried to the moon by an astronaut, Alan Bean, who was the lunar module pilot for Apollo 12 and the fourth person to walk on the moon.
And these two photographs on the top are photographs that he actually took whilst on the moon, is that correct?
Yeah.
He brought a small swatch of the tartan with him on this historic mission. The tartan was a symbol of the strong Scottish connection to NASA. Today, this tartan serves as a reminder of Scotland's role in space exploration and the historic journey to the moon, and is worth
A bit surprised if this were to come up for sale, it would sell for somewhere in the region of £10,000 to £15,000.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing it. I'm so delighted to have seen it. Thank you, and actually touched something that's been to the
moon. This Carlson painting was given to the guest by his grandmother. It was drawn by the famed John Fabian Carlson. This painting is a perfect depiction of nature in its magnificence. John was known to be a painter who liked to explore the locales of New York and Virginia, and this is probably where he got his inspiration from. John was also trained in the Woodstock School of Art, which is likely how he came on to become an expert painter. At an auction, this exquisite nature painting would auction at,
I would say for insurance value about $60,000.
Oh my gosh, it's more than I would have guessed.
Paintings are always a sight to behold. The same can be said about this painting by Max Arthur Cohn. Cohn was an English-born American artist often called the pioneer of screen printing. This piece is an oil painting done on canvas and carries Cohn's signature.
Came to New York at the age of 2, and he really is best known for his WPA New York scenes.
Even though this painting isn't dated, its time of craftsmanship can be roughly dated to before Cohn did a serigraph of it.
He made a printed image, a serigraph, of this in 1938.
Although Cohn is more famous for his print screening, a piece of this quality from before he fully transitioned to screen printing would be valued at,
I would estimate the insurance value to be $10,000.
Oh, great.
The guest brought a folk art piece that had been acquired at an auction for $100. The item was identified as a whirligig made by an unskilled artist. The piece was believed to have been carved as a gift or presentation, potentially by someone returning from service. Whirligigs typically had moving arms and were placed on fence posts to spin in the wind. This particular piece featured original paint and decorative elements like buttons. Additionally, it had a removable hat with a badge on top, likely representing a police officer. The item showed signs of outdoor exposure, with damage on the foot and hat. The appraiser highlighted that, with folk art, damage can actually add character and increase appeal for collectors. Estimated to date back to the 1880s or 1890s, the suggested value was,
We all think that he's probably, in the condition he's in, is worth between $1,200 and $1,500.
The guest inherited a banjo from their uncle, who had been part of a musical group with their father and aunt. It was identified as a Fairbanks White Lady No. 7 banjo, renowned for its high-grade quality. The banjo had a stunning bump case, characteristic of banjo making around 1910. The appraiser highlighted the item's unique White Lady tone ring, a significant innovation introduced around 1902 for superior sound quality. Made in 1908 or 1909 by the premier banjo company Fairbanks in Boston, it represented its distinctive tone and craftsmanship. The banjo boasted remarkable features, including an exquisitely carved heel, intricately engraved inlays, and tortoiseshell cord celluloid material. Notably, it also sported a presentation plate, suggesting it was custom-made for Mrs. Edward L. Hitchcock. Additionally, its stunning engraved inlays showcased intricate designs like griffin motifs. The banjo's pristine condition and exceptional craftsmanship gave it significant value.
This is probably worth about at least $8,000.
Wow.
And an enthusiast might pay a bit more.
Wow.
It could reach as high as $10,000 in the right situation.
Wow.
The bronze deer censer, linked to kuniharu, shows amazing skill in how it's made, with lots of attention to detail and a great sense of how it looks. Several years ago, an individual attended an auction at a local church in their town. During the auction, they spotted a piece they decided to bid on, setting a limit for themselves. Surprisingly, they won the bid for a deer sculpture. The appraiser provided background information on the Japanese market, noting its softness compared to other Asian art categories, but highlighted exceptions for extraordinary works by renowned artists. The object in question was identified as a censer, used for ritualistic purposes to emit aromatic smoke. The appraiser attributed the piece to Kuniharu, a master bronzesmith of the Meiji period. Despite the soft market, the association with such a master could fetch significant interest in prices. Additionally, the piece was said to have been returned from the Boston Art Museum in the early 20th century, potentially adding to its value. While estimating the value of the beautiful piece, the appraiser says,
I think an appropriate auction value in 2016 would be $10,000 to $15,000.
Okay.
So you did tremendously well at auction.
Wow. Never, ever expected.
Whatever it was that drew you to this piece, your instincts were absolutely correct. It's a masterpiece of its type.
Wow. Thank you.
The guest's family heirloom included a chair that belonged to his great-grandmother. Upon examining the chair, the appraiser noted the inscription, "Consider Tiffany, A.D. 1761. However, after thorough research, he couldn't find any evidence of cabinet makers named Tiffany. Despite the unknown maker, the chair was identified as a William and Mary armchair from around 1720, likely crafted in southeast Connecticut. The appraiser suggested that it was probably made by a wood turner, given its predominantly turned components.
It's what we would call a turner's chair. By that, I mean the primary skill was a wood turner. In fact, there's only 4 pieces that were not turned: the arms, the crest rail, and the stay rail.
Okay. Initially plain, the chair underwent modifications in the 19th century to enhance its appearance. Carving details were added to give it a more ornate look, alongside metal reinforcements and adjustments for comfort. However, these alterations diminished the chair's market value and historical integrity. Given these considerations, the appraiser estimated its value to be,
It's probably about $2,000, maybe $2,500 top.
This lamp has illuminated guests' family history for generations. Fruits, berries, and leaves are made of colorful glass and are beautifully arranged in a vase.
And look at this, if the top doesn't lift right off, so we can look at the top of it.
Colors are a clue to its maker. Czechoslovakian glass factories were famous for their vibrant hues. This lamp features reds, ambers, and several shades of green. Each piece is free-blown, partly molded, and attached to a metal framework. Beading adds extra dimension when the lamp is lit. Glass resembles a basket with no markings on the bottom. There's an indentation for the wire to come through. It is likely from the 1920s, and Czechoslovakian glass from this period has become very collectible. This piece could fetch up to
Now now, I think $1,000 is not really too much to expect
Oh, my
for a piece
goodness.
like this.
Updated value of it is $600 to $900. During the Great Depression, the guest's great-grandfather acquired this magnificent mandolin from a neighbor. It's a Gibson F5 mandolin featuring the iconic fern inlay design crafted by Lloyd Loar himself. Lloyd Loar, an acoustic engineer and renowned mandolin virtuoso at Gibson, revolutionized the instrument in the 1920s with innovations such as parallel tone bars and an elevated fingerboard. It boasts 2 F-holes, a centrally positioned bridge, and internally tuned plates, reminiscent of a violin. Loar's groundbreaking innovations established the benchmark for modern mandolins. Inside, we find a Gibson label with a serial number and a master model label, confirming its top-grade status since 1922.
If I had to grade it in Gibson mandolins, Lloyd Loar mandolins, I'd probably put it at the top 10% of the ones I've seen.
During the Great Depression, the guest's great-grandfather purchased it for $20, though its value at the time was estimated to be around $600. Today, it could fetch.
These days, a correct asking price through a dealer in a shop would be about $175,000.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Present value of this mandolin is $125,000. A violin was showcased at the show by a guest. The showcased violin was identified as a high-quality French instrument crafted by Amédée Dieudonné. He was a respected French luthier, known for his craftsmanship and influence on the violin-making tradition. His instruments were highly prized for their quality and were sought after by both musicians and collectors. The violin exhibited exquisite craftsmanship featuring delicate edges. Each Dieudonné instrument possessed a unique personality, characterized by its playful yet clean sound. Dating back to the mid-1920s, the violin was appraised with a retail value of,
and I would give it a retail value of between $9,000 and $10,000.
No!
The guest purchased this piece of furniture about 20 years ago at an antique show in Tulsa for around $2,000.
The gentleman told me it was a John Jelliff, but I have no way of knowing if that was true or not.
The appraiser then asked if the piece had been reupholstered, to which the guest replied that they had bought it as is and loved it. The appraiser explained that John Jelliff was known for his high-quality furniture, often featured classic busts and medallions. However, Jelliff retired in 1860, and while his company continued, it was not under his direct leadership. Was in rosewood, he did work with walnut, the material of the guest's piece. The overall quality and design of the carving seemed more factory-generated and less crisp than Jelliff's work, suggesting it might be from a Midwest manufacturer, possibly from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Carving is a little bit more factory-generated. The arms, while they have this tassel, which is symbolic of Jelliff, the crispness overall isn't quite Jelliff.
The appraiser informed the guest that the current market has changed, and people are not collecting such furniture with the same enthusiasm. Even if it were confirmed as a Jelliff piece, its market value would only be around.
You're probably looking at $600 to $800.
That's okay. I still love it.
Good.
That's all right.
The guest's grandmother, born in 1890, received this doll from her half-sister when she was about 5 years old in 1895. The appraiser noted that the doll had likely been gently played with due to its pristine condition. The appraiser identified the doll as being made by Jumeau, one of France's most prominent doll makers, who began producing dolls in 1842.
These examples were made anywhere between 1890 and 1900.
Oh, okay.
It was in remarkable condition with its original wig, clothes, and earrings, although the silk was slightly molting due to age. Upon a closer inspection, the appraiser pointed out the markings on the back of the doll's head, including Déposé Tite Jumeau and the size number 8, suggesting it was about 20 inches tall. Additionally, there was an artist's mark, 1X, and even the shoes were marked. The doll had original earrings and a high-quality body. Although the guest intended to pass it down to her granddaughter, the appraiser valued the doll between
At auction today, this doll would bring between $4,500 and $7,000.
There's something timeless about a pearl brooch. It's like a miniature work of art that tells its own story. Our guest was gifted the item by her grandmother. Crafted from silver-topped gold and adorned with mine-cut diamonds, likely made around 1880 to 1890. It's difficult to determine the origin of the item precisely because it lacks any visible maker's mark. The brooch also showcases pink conch pearls,
The conch pearl is a very rare.
a highly rare material from the Caribbean.
There is no price sheet for them, and each is an actual miracle of nature.
Given the rarity of the materials used in this piece, it would command a significant auction value of
A fair auction estimate for this brooch we see to be in the range of $15,000 to $20,000.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah, no, I know.
The Guest family had a long-standing connection with the space race, which led to a substantial collection of astronaut memorabilia, including autographs.
A collection of a lot of different astronauts and autographs and all that, but I think it's the story behind it that really made it interesting for us.
The appraiser selected a few notable items from the Guest's collection for review. Among them was a photograph of the Guest's father in front of the hotel with a sign promoting their corned beef. The Guest shared a humorous story about his father and astronaut John Young smuggling corned beef sandwiches into space, which led to a congressional investigation due to the crumbs and mess it caused.
Gemini 3 mission was to test different foods in space, and to have a corned beef sandwich brought on board along with all these emulsified, glycerin-covered foods. I can see why the government might get a little upset and decide to do a little bit of an investigation about it.
Among the collection was a letter from Alan Shepard to the Guest's father, written on Ramada Inn stationery, humorously referencing the corned beef incident. The appraiser also pointed out 2 photographs signed by Neil Armstrong and dedicated to the Guest's parents and himself as a child. The appraiser estimated the letter and photograph would fetch between
Estimate at auction this would sell for between $3,000 and $5,000.
Too fun.
The 2 signed photographs of Neil Armstrong were valued between
We estimate at auction each one would sell for between $7,000 and $10,000 each.
Chair, please. Very good.
leaving the Guest pleasantly surprised and grateful for the sentimental and monetary value of his father's legacy. The entire collection was appraised at approximately,
as a whole, we'd estimate around $40,000 to $50,000.
Wow. Thanks, Dad.
A legendary figures piece was showcased on the show in the form of a photo album. This album is a cherished family heirloom that dates back to 1907.
Okay, it's probably the nicest album I've seen of Buffalo Bill.
It provides a glimpse into the Wild West show of Buffalo Bill, who was an American soldier and showman.
The first one is actually Buffalo Bill, and it shows Buffalo Bill in his grandeur.
This album showcases various acts and moments from the show's performances. Additionally, the album includes images of the show's grand entry, as well as charming pictures of young Native Americans. Despite the softening market for Buffalo Bill memorabilia, this album stands out as a significant collection that's valued at
I would estimate that in a retail situation, it would bring $2,500 to $3,500.
Wow. Thanks, Grandpa. Awesome.
Created by arguably one of the best woodcut artists of the early 20th century.
We bought it in Santa Fe in June of 1970, and I still have the original bill of sale.
These woodcut prints by Gustaf Bowman exude sheer knowledge and expertise. Top artists have been known to leave their signature, and with this being no different.
He was in a bar in Chicago and met a friend there, and he was talking to this fellow, and he said, I just got back from New Mexico, and you really should go there. It's a wonderful place.
Bowman cements his superiority with his original orange ink stamp. For prints that were made around the 1920s, their condition is top-notch, and this is owing to the quality over quantity mantra of top artists like Gustaf. Woodcut designs are not easily made, and for this reason, these designs auction at
auction today, conservatively, I would expect this to sell for around $10,000. So you've done quite well with it over 30 years.
Thank you, and have a smart wife.
Yeah, and it's wonderful to have something always of local interest on the show.
For heaven's sake. Well,
So
thank you
for bringing it
very
in.
much. Thank you, Todd. Thank you.
You're welcome.
American football is usually termed as a game of might and strength, and today's piece is a jersey from the beloved sport. This piece is a 1978 Monday Night Football jersey from the now-defunct Baltimore Colts, which belonged to one of their players who had the game of his life that day, Joe Washington. Washington was an American former professional football player who was a running back for the NFL.
Colts are facing off against the Patriots, right?
Correct.
Okay.
As we can see, this jersey is riddled with holes because Washington had asked our guest, who at the time was a ball boy for the Baltimore Colts, to make them help Washington get away from the opposing defenders.
The NFL actually ended up banning tearaway jerseys.
Upon turning the jersey, we see that the jersey number has been ripped up, which tells us the kind of game Washington had that day. This jersey from one of America's most beloved sports, with the history accompanied with it, at insurance value would be...
Insurance-wise, we're looking at $6,000 to $8,000 is right around what you could expect to place on this for insurance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Today's piece is a work of art, figuratively and literally. This piece is an etching that was part of a collection and was done by a famous French etching artist, Jean-Baptiste Corot. Corot was a French landscape and portrait painter as well as a printmaker in etching. This particular piece is actually part of a pair that Corot made in the 1860s.
Corot was, at this time, one of the more famous painters in France.
Typical of etching techniques, this piece involved using acid to bite into a metal plate, which was then used to create this intricate design. This piece, with its rarity, coupled with the fact that it's from one of the most notable etching artists, would make it valued at...
I would put an auction estimate conservatively at $3,000 to $5,000.
Let's take a trip down memory lane through the lens of vintage trolley car advertisement cards. This collection was discovered by a guest in a house he purchased years ago in Baltimore. We can date these items by examining their printer's code. This particular card was produced in October 1933. Considering its rich history and the length of time since it was made, the showcased card would fetch an auction value of...
would run $300 to $400 for that piece.
A second card advertising chewing gum would be valued at auction.
You're looking at $200 to $300 for this.
The third card, depicting an orange advertisement, would fetch a value of around
about $400 to $500.
Oh my gosh.
And the fourth card, from the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, has a rich provenance and is valued at...
Right. This is a $500 piece.
There is also another card advertising soap, estimated to be worth at auction...
This one, it's a very nice, colorful piece, about $300.
Lastly, we have a card from the campaign of Theodore Roosevelt, who was an American politician, statesman, and writer, who served as the 26th President of the United States of America. With such political and historical significance, this piece is valued at auction to be...
And that's about a $400 to $500 piece.
Guess I need to get them out from underneath the bed and do something with them. And I almost left them behind when I sold the house.
There is something magical about ventriloquist dummies that makes them a captivating piece, and this dummy is no different.
So you've got him through your family?
Yes, Dad belonged to a magic club in Catford in South London. This is my dad here.
Made of wood with a realistically painted face and movable features, this piece is called a Cheeky Charlie. He is often dressed in a smart outfit, such as a suit, adding to his charming appearance on stage. Charlie plays a crucial role in the ventriloquist act, serving as a comedic partner in the dialogue.
So what would you say if I was worth $600 to $800?
Wow.
Nevertheless, how much do you think Cheeky Charlie would auction for? Germans are known for their expertise in creating innovative machines, but this woodcut art piece by Käthe Kollwitz puts them in the same conversation with the best at woodcut art.
Käthe Kollwitz, she's from Germany, I believe.
It is by the artist Käthe Kollwitz. She's a very important German printmaker during the first half of the 20th century.
Käthe Kollwitz was a very important German printmaker during the early 20th century. She wasn't just well-versed in the art of creating beautiful woodcuts, but she also created lithographs and etchings. This painting is controversial because it was made in honor of a political revolt.
When the armistice was signed and Germany was defeated in 1918, there was a working-class uprising in Germany and a revolt. Karl Liebknecht was one of the leaders of the working-class revolt.
That's why the name of the painting is titled A Memorial for Karl Liebknecht. Nevertheless, as an inspiring piece of art and testament of German expertise, this woodcut design auctions for...
At auction, I would estimate it to sell for between $4,000 and $6,000.
Really?
This is a spectacular portrait of the British Queen. Our guest's great-aunt painted this piece. She was a society and royal photographer who worked with Dorothy Wilding Studios.
Tris Johnson, and she was...
Yes, she was my great-aunt.
I see.
And she died in 2000, age 94.
The painting was done from a photograph taken during a formal sitting of Dorothy Wilding and the Queen. Queen Elizabeth II was the Queen of the United Kingdom and other Commonwealth realms. She was the longest reigning British monarch in history. Along with the original photograph, our guest also presented the material from the dress worn by the Queen in this particular painting.
Yes, it was supplied along with various other bits and pieces to assist her with the painting.
Just to give some idea of the colours to
Yes.
help her sort of render it right.
Exactly, yeah.
Rare and unique, this painting signifies the monarchy and pride of the British, with an estimated value of...
I would have thought that it's got to be worth between £4,000 and £6,000. Not a huge amount.
No.
The guest brought two vintage Lalique pieces, each approximately 70 years old, for appraisal. René Lalique was a renowned jeweler and designer of the 20th century who later became a distinguished glassmaker. The appraiser confirmed the authenticity of the pieces, noting that they were made in 1924 and that the Lalique factory ceased production of them after World War II. The early 1900s marked the peak of René Lalique's career, during which he exhibited at the International Exhibition in Paris. The guest shared an interesting story about the clock, mentioning that he had purchased it from a woman who had inherited it from her grandmother in Australia. The appraiser mentioned that this clock came with different face versions, most of them featuring the letters ATO, which was the mark of a French company that made clocks. ATO also sold clocks made by Lalique, and this one bore the name of the realtors printed on it. The guest shared that he acquired the vase from a flea market after recognizing it was a Lalique vase. The appraiser revealed that this was a well-known vase known as Ceylon, named after the island of Sri Lanka in French. The vase was signed René Lalique at the bottom. The glass was not in very good condition, and it had about half an inch of chipped lip that may not be apparent at first sight, but it was indeed missing. To the guest's disappointment, due to the chipped lip, the appraiser estimated the price of this vase to be significantly lower.
Your Ceylon is not worth any more today than perhaps $500 at auction.
Oh, really?
Sorry to disappoint you.
All right.
The appraiser also mentioned a crack in the clock and estimated it to affect its value.
I would say that $800 is about a retail price. I would say today at auction, it would sell for perhaps as much as $500 to $700.
This jewelry certainly makes a statement with its vibrant appearance. Our guest purchased the pendant through an online auction. Featured on the pendant are green garnets, and the center stone being a bullseye citrine. Both citrine and garnet are natural gemstones, lending the pendant an organic appearance. Fascinatingly, the piece was crafted by Tiffany & Company. It's worth noting that the pendant is in remarkably good condition. The works of Tiffany & Company are highly sought after. This places the auction value of this piece at
$2,000 to $3,000. Oh, wow.
The most elaborate form of Civil War presentation sword, that's the first thought that comes to mind after seeing this beautiful sword. Swords like this one were given to highly respected soldiers during the American Civil War.
To Lieutenant Louis Beerwith by his Louisiana friends as a token of their esteem, July of 1864.
So it is a form of utter patriotism to its owner. Although the blade has a few condition issues, the sword is still finely made. The sword is called a statue hilt, and this is due to the grip of the sword, which is equipped with a statue. For a sword made in 1864, and due to the prominent event in which it was used, the sword today would auction at
$10,000 to $15,000.
Wow.
Very nice.
Not a bad return.
Without even looking too much at this beautiful painting, many of us could relate to the scene depicted on the canvas. The piece of art was created by Andrew Loomis. The painting was done in the 1930s at a time when oil paintings were in demand.
There were companies who worked with Coca-Cola, Lucky Strikes, Kellogg's, all those sort of things. But this one was probably done for a magazine.
It depicts a boy in trouble, which is a relatable scene for most and definitely increases its value. What's special about Andrew is that he didn't start out as a painter.
He wrote a series of books, how-to books. The first one was Fun with Your Pencil, I believe it was called, and that was published in 1939. So these books were really, really popular.
So for a painting that's well detailed and appealing like this, it would retail at the auction value of
$4,000 to $6,000.
Nice. Very nice.
Not a bad return.
The guest brought a vintage bag in excellent condition and design. It was a beautiful bag and had all the bells and whistles. The bag featured intricate handmade floral beadwork on both the front and back. It had a very appealing design. It had a minor condition issue, but had all the original components. The preservation of the original components, even if damaged, was more important than being replaced. It was considered museum quality due to the exceptional craftsmanship and condition. The bag's beauty, craftsmanship, and historical significance made it a standout piece, being valued at
$1,000 to $1,200. Just beautiful. Thank you so much.
Early days of a famous star or icon is always something to behold, and that's just what this guest feels from owning the early concept posters of Elvis Presley. Presley was an American singer and actor known as the King of Rock and Roll. The posters are from Presley's earlier appearances before he became widely famous, and they are dated February 6, 1955.
We've got top billing, Fair and Young.
Yes.
And Elvis is all the way down here at the bottom, which is kind of hard for us to imagine now, all these years later.
Yes.
This particular type of poster is a very rare find, as there are very little of its type seen at auctions. At auction, this poster, with its rarity and significance to the early days of the King of Rock and Roll, would be worth
$10,000 and $12,000.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Even in this condition.
I never knew that.
Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a pretty good investment for...
The painting not only portrays beauty, but also evokes a sense of tranquility. The guest purchased a Raymond Johnson painting for $40 at an estate sale to remember their New Mexican background. The appraiser acknowledges Johnson, an American artist who founded the Transcendental Painting Group, and moved to Santa Fe in 1924. The painting, titled Arroyo No. 3, dates from 1922, likely has its original frame and inscriptions featuring Johnson's signature symbol. The guest explains that an arroyo is a land feature in the desert, where rain flows through a low area between two high areas, making for a striking sight. The appraiser admires the colors and depictions of the painting and was amazed that the guest bought it for only $40. The guest shares their hobby of collecting items from garage sales since childhood, buying things they like and can afford. The appraiser praises the painting as a great example of Johnson's early work, emphasizing its New Mexico theme. The guest did not have the painting insured and only realized its potential value after seeing the title on the back. While estimating the worth of the painting, the appraiser said,
$30,000 to $50,000. Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing. That's a pretty good investment.
The guest shared that the basket had been handed down through her husband's family in Wythe County, Virginia. The appraiser identified it as a fork-handled basket, a type that rarely survives. He estimated it to have been made around 1900. 1900 baskets were used for keeping laundry, storing vegetables and eggs, keeping cutlery, etc. To the guest's surprise and delight, he valued the basket at
between $2,000 and $3,000.
Oh my goodness.
Looking at this item, it might seem like a piece of junk. But this is a 1st century headband fragment, which the guest's daughter-in-law found while cleaning out a relative's house. A 24-karat gold fragment was used to be part of a larger piece, featuring a scene sculpted in relief, known as repoussé.
It's done from the reverse side.
The back of this item is hammered, making it recognizable as a headband. Interestingly, a pendant was made out of this piece and is identified as Greek, evident from the carving showing.
King sitting down, and the maids are coming, and they're bringing another maid, and this is satyr with the tail.
This unique piece, made of 24-karat gold and featuring a sculpted scene, in today's market could easily go for
$8,000 to $12,000.
Holy cow! Oh my. I'm surprised. Woo!
The guest brought in a watercolor painting by Paul Sallier, a Kentucky artist. Sallier spent time on the Kentucky River, living on a houseboat and sketching and painting. He primarily created watercolors like this piece, which was typical of his work. The painting was titled The Blacksmith Shop on Elkhorn Creek. Elkhorn Creek runs through central Kentucky between Frankfort and Lexington. The painting depicts a rustic landscape with a blacksmith shop and a lush, late summer scene. The artist captured the contrast between the green landscape and the fire and glow from the blacksmith shop. The painting was in good condition and was estimated at
$15,000 to $25,000 on it these days.
Really? Oh my. I'm surprised.
Unlike most belts, this Alaska belt buckle is breathtaking. It is a substantial, large belt buckle containing 5 troy ounces of gold, with gold nuggets soldered onto the gold base.
A belt buckle. It's rather large. Of course, I threw it on the scale. You almost broke my scale.
The buckle likely dates back to the Alaska pipeline days, and it features intricate embellishments, including twist wire. As seen, its riveted construction indicates high craftsmanship. The mastodon or mammoth tusk element, initially mistaken for wood, is a distinctive Alaskan material. Its buckle's frame is finely engraved, adding to its quality and care.
So nuggets are a little more sought after. Gold was discovered early on in Alaska, actually by the Russians in the Kenai River area in 1849.
Alaskan gold nuggets, typically 90% pure or 22 karat, enhance this belt buckle value of
$20,000 to $40,000.
That's a little more than I was thinking.
This unusual item looks like a foreign rug, but it is not. In fact, it's a type of bag called the Turkmen cheval. Chevals were used in the 19th century by Turkmen as storage bags.
From Turkmenistan. It's a Turkmen storage bag. It's not really a saddle bag. It was woven by a Turkmen subgroup known as the Yomuds. They're a semi-nomadic tribe.
The design on this particular cheval is so attractive and appealing, and it shows the creative design background of the Turkmenistan people. It was created by a subgroup of the Turkmen called the Yomud tribe. The weaving material is wool on wool, which is very appealing. For a beautiful piece of Yomud creativity, this cheval storage bag would auction at
$5,000 and $7,000.
Dollars?
Yeah, dollars.
Wow.
It's a really good piece. It's a nice thing.
My goodness, I had no idea.
Throughout history, walking sticks have been used by kings and important personnel, and these walking sticks closely resemble those used by royalty in earlier years. The sticks, due to their engravings, resemble a totem, but the carvings actually tell a story of where the wood has been. What's surprising about the canes is how intricately detailed they are and how they're still in top quality, despite being created in 1930. One of the canes here is called a puzzle cane due to the manner in which the engravings were made. At auction, collectively, these canes would retail at the price of
$14,000. You're kidding. My goodness.
What a weird collection to own. That's what most folks would say when they see this paperweight. The item is a blue snake paperweight of French origin. Paperweights were in demand during the 19th century, but this one in particular was more in demand for 2 reasons. The first is due to its blue glass, which earned it the name opaline, whilst the second is how the glass was coiled to make a 3D snake paperweight. Given these 2 features, coupled with the shine of the opaline, this snake paperweight would auction at
$2,500 to $3,500 on it right now.
How exciting.
Illuminate the past with this pair of vintage candlesticks. This guest inherited the candlesticks from her great-grandmother. The pair of candlesticks was made by Robert Javi in the early 20th century. Javi was an American craftsman known for his high-quality metalworks. At the bottom of the pair, we can see an inscription of the maker's mark. while at the top is the bobâche, designed to keep the wax off the other parts.
The one thing about the bobâche which is interesting is that this is Jarvie's very basic stick.
The candlesticks were crafted from bronze and are in very good condition. Jarvie's work are considered rare, and at auction, this pair would sell for
between $800 and $1,200.
The guest brought in 2 vintage posters from his family's clothing business dating back to the 1950s. The posters featured artwork by Joe Mora, a Uruguayan-born artist known for his illustrations of cowboys and Native Americans. One poster was an original 1933 print titled Sweetheart of the Rodeo, which was later adapted by Levi's for their advertising. The appraiser valued the poster at
$1,200.
The second poster, which the guest brought, had never been seen before by the appraiser. Despite its poor condition, it featured classic American imagery. The guest expressed a personal connection to the second poster's message, relating it to their own experiences in a small, struggling town. This beautiful and classical vintage poster was valued at
About $1,000 to $1,500.
Wow, that's wonderful. I like it because of what it says. We're in a dying small town, and this is very pertinent.
Today, we have a collection of fascinating items acquired by this guest from junk shops and antique shops. The period during which these items were made spans from the 19th century to the early 20th century. Included in the collection are 2 pieces made by the Tiffany & Company. Some of these items have European origins, while others have American origins. Interestingly, many inkwell collections from this era feature intricate designs such as Art Nouveau and Art Deco, with geometric patterns and ornate designs. Due to their collective provenance, this collection would have a significant value.
$3,000 to $5,000.
I'm going to hit some today.
Featured on the show is a vintage clock that exudes elegance and sophistication. The clock was gifted to this guest by a friend of hers in 1993. Commonly referred to as the banjo clock, the clock was made by Simon Willard. Willard was a celebrated American clockmaker.
He was quite the inventor, actually. He experimented with a number of different forms of clocks.
He started producing clocks like this one in 1802, and near the base of the clock, we can discern the maker's name on the glass. On the clock's dial, the numbers are in Roman numerals, and there are 2 hands. The clock also boasts sidearms crafted from brass. Reverse-painted aigle-mosaic glasses were used in the making of this piece. It also came with an original crank. However, the finial at the top has been replaced. Although the finial has been replaced, the clock is in remarkably good condition, placing its auction value at
$50,000 to $60,000.
Oh, okay.
So
I'm very surprised.
If you were to talk about one of the top visual artists of the 20th century, there's no way this important American artist of the second half of that century wouldn't be mentioned. Andy Warhol. Warhol was an American visual artist, film director, producer, and a leading figure in the pop art movement. This screen print was commissioned by the Cincinnati Museum of Art, and it features the images of Pete Rose. Rose is an American former professional baseball player in the MLB from 1963 to 1986, most prominently as a member of the Cincinnati Reds. The item is a 4-quadrant painting and is duly signed by Warhol.
It's got 4 images of Rose at bat.
This painting, done by an artist at the top of his game at that time, and a baseball player also at the top of his game, is valued at
$30,000. Wow. So, really, very nice.
Very surprising.
A beautifully carved clock from the 1880s, found in a French barn, hides a surprising value. In the early 60s, the guest's parents were stationed in La Rochelle, France. When the guest was about 10, they found a beautifully carved clock in an old barn while antiquing and convinced their parents to buy it. The appraiser admires the clock's intricate carvings of leaves, birds, and acorns, comparing it to eye candy. The guest initially guessed the clock was from Germany's Black Forest around 1900, but the appraiser suggests it might be French. This is based on the porcelain number tiles and the square shape of the clock's movement, which are typical French features. The clock also has detailed brickwork on the back, a unique aspect if placed in front of a mirror. The clock has worm damage when it was first bought, but the guest managed to get rid of it. The appraiser notes that cleaning caused the color difference. Despite this, the clock, possibly made of walnut or alder, is very attractive. While praising the clock, the appraiser said,
$3,500.
Well, very good. Very surprising.
These aren't cards used to play a card game. On the contrary, they are pieces of art created by Peruvian-American artist Alberto Vargas. Alberto was famous around the 1940s and 1960s, with his works being published in magazines, posters, and featured in movies.
He was very famous in the 1940s. He worked with Esquire magazine. He had an incredibly long and varied career.
He was known for painting sexy images, such as the ones depicted on these cards. What's more appealing about these cards is that they were designed around 1953, and yet have still maintained top quality. For this reason, and given the bragging rights of Alberto, these cards would be worth
$500.
Wow.
One might wonder about the origins of this painting. This painting was created by a student of the guest's grandfather, an artist in New Orleans. The artist in question is Clarence Millet. Millet was born just outside of New Orleans in Hanville and struggled to find his career path. Eventually, Millet was discovered by notable painters Louis Oscar Griffith and Robert Grafton, and then attended Tulane and the Art Students League in New York, where he studied to become an artist. After leaving school, he created this oil on board in 1921.
On board. It's signed in the lower right. It's also dated what looks to be 21 for 1921.
The painting, set in a period frame, depicts a New Orleans country yard scene. In today's market, Millet's work is highly collectible, especially for New Orleans collectors, and would be estimated to be worth
$5,000 to $7,000.
Nice. Very nice.
One of the weirdest combos presented. That's what we have here today in the form of a brick and porcelain figure. But these items aren't just the usual items you see every day. They were crafted by Longton Hall in the United Kingdom. Longton Hall has a long and well-known history because it started as the center of a thriving pottery industry. This porcelain figure is well made and has stood the test of time. At auction, the finely crafted figure would retail at the price of
£800, maybe £1,000. So she's a great...
Present in table glassware of various kinds, this Bohemian glass decanter and stem set offers a special shine that is admirable. This glassware, possibly baccarat, features heavy giltwork and enameling.
In order to prove that, we would have to see the line drawings.
The set includes a handled decanter and a stoppered decanter, each with distinctive stoppers to differentiate them when removed. Originally part of a larger set, 9 pieces were unfortunately broken.
Originally, I had 27 pieces. My husband was helping me one day before a party, and he knocked a glass shelf out. Oops. And 9 of them broke.
But the remaining pieces are in perfect condition. Additionally, this decanter and stem date back to the 1870s or 1880s, and due to their lustrous property and unique design, these pieces would auction at
in the $4,500 to $5,000 range. Ooh. So I hope the oops wasn't.
Yeah. Well, he's an antique too, so I have to keep him.